I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
A momentous day for the United States of America as the 44th president is sworn in and the 43rd bows out. A new beginning.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
And a celebration of American freedom and democracy.
We're a part of history.
Tonight, the inauguration of Barack Obama.
Tonight's CBS Evening News with Katie Couric is being brought to you with limited commercial interruptions by Audi. Progress is beautiful.
And good evening, everyone. It's the beginning of a whole new era in this country. Tonight, Barack Obama is President of the United States. And if the incredible crowds in this city today are any indication, the new president is beginning his term in a nation filled with hope and excitement. It's a day many thought they would never live to see, an African-American sworn in as chief executive. Mr. Obama acknowledged as much when he said in his speech a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant now stands before you, about to take a most sacred oath. We have extensive coverage of this very historic day, beginning with the man who will be covering the Obama White House for CBS News, Chip Reid. Hey, Chip.
Well, good evening, Katie. You can probably hear that this parade is still going on, and this is an inauguration that did live up to expectations. Lots of pomp and circumstance, huge crowds, and no major problems.
At first light, hundreds of thousands of people were already streaming onto the National Mall, while just a few blocks away, Barack Obama departed Blair House, the Obama family's temporary home for the short trip to St. John's Episcopal Church. The next stop in a series of long-standing Inauguration Day traditions, the White House, where Mr. Obama and wife Michelle joined President Bush and the First Lady for coffee. Down on the Mall, the flood of humanity continued. Despite weather so cold, the reflecting pool was frozen solid. Vast stretches of the mall between the Capitol and the Lincoln Memorial, 3 miles away, were so packed the police closed the security gates. The crowd eventually reached about 2 million, 5 times the number that turned out 4 years ago for the second inauguration of George W. Bush. At the Capitol, an eclectic mix of music filled the air, from Yo-Yo Ma to Aretha Franklin.
I come, treated of thee.
The crowd teemed with celebrities, but the loudest cheer was for Malia and Sasha Obama. Until, that is, their father was announced and the crowd went wild.
The President-elect of the United States, Barack H. Obama.
In a ceremony that otherwise ran smoothly, Chief Justice John Roberts misstated the presidential oath.
That I will execute the office of President to the United States faithfully.
President-elect Obama gave him a chance to correct it.
That I will execute
faithfully the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
And seconds later, President Barack Obama delivered his inaugural address, a serious and sober speech with a large dose of hope and inspiration.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. For as much as government can do and must do, it is ultimately the faith and determination of the American people upon which this nation relies.
After the swearing in, the new president walked the former president to a waiting helicopter where Mr. Bush departed for his new home in Texas. A short time later, during the congressional luncheon, the day appeared to take a bad turn as Senator Ted Kennedy, who's undergoing treatment for a brain tumor, suffered a seizure.
Right now, a part of me is with him. And I think that's true for all of us.
But reports from the hospital say Kennedy is doing well. The ceremony closed with a rousing inaugural parade. The Obamas leaving their limousine and walking much of the way to the White House. After just 17 minutes inside, they made their way to the reviewing stand to watch the parade, where the new First Lady was overheard expressing her delight at finally being home.
President Obama is planning to hit the ground running tomorrow, meeting with both his top economic advisors and his top military advisors. He's expected to give the military advisors their marching orders on drawing down troops in Iraq. Katie?
Chip Reed at the White House tonight. Chip, thank you very much. As Chip just reported, Senator Kennedy gave everyone at the luncheon for the new president quite a scare, and there's a lot of concern about his health tonight. Kimberly Dozier has an update for us now. And Kimberly, how is Senator Kennedy doing?
Well, he's doing fine now, Katie. Hospital officials tell us he did experience a seizure at that luncheon this afternoon, but after testing, they've determined it was probably brought on by exhaustion. So they're keeping him in overnight and releasing him in the morning. Right now, he's resting comfortably with his wife, Vicky, and his son at his side. He also received a phone call this afternoon from President Obama, and he received a visitor, Senator John Kerry.
He is in good shape. I can't tell you how much he was laughing and joking a moment ago.
He's an Irishman.
He's got all his Irish dander up, and he's anxious to get back to work.
Senator Kennedy was diagnosed with brain cancer last year. After surgery and months of treatment, he was able to return to work late last fall. Katie?
Kimberly Dozier, good news indeed. Thank you so much, Kimberly. The streets and sidewalks, meanwhile, of this city were gridlocked today with people from all over the country who wanted to be here, felt they had to be here to witness history. And as someone who was caught in that gridlock early this morning, I can tell you the people were nonetheless exuding joy. In a country mired in recession and fighting two wars, this was a day for celebration. Our chief national correspondent Byron Pitts was out among the people today. Hey, Byron, good evening.
Hey, Katie. Tonight, the nation's capital is fairly quiet. But for many of the people who were here today, it was more like the nation's pulpit, and the chapel stretched on for miles. Today, not even sub-freezing temperatures could cool the heat of history in the making.
Start a love train, a love train.
Even as the thermostat read 19 degrees, people cheered. From the length of the National Memorial to the west front of the Capitol, they cheered.
I'm not cold at all. I'm warm-hearted and feeling good.
It was especially easy to feel good
Obama! Obama!
for the 240,000 who had tickets, pieces of paper cherished like gold. A woman from Durham, North Carolina. I see tears.
Yeah, I've been crying ever since the convention.
A 7-year-old boy from Kansas City.
When I'm a grown-up, I'm going to tell my kids that I was there.
A man from New Jersey.
It's a history-making moment, and we're just glad to be here with 3 million other people.
Hollywood was here.
I don't think I've ever seen so many people smiling in my lifetime. Everybody's smiling. It almost comes to the point where your face hurts.
There were moments as magical as any movie.
What does this day mean to you?
I said, this is the day that the Lord had made.
Famed actress Cicely Tyson, consumed by the moment, remembered a line from one of her most cherished roles, the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman.
And as old Jane Pittman said, here's the one. People are always looking for somebody to lead them.
She wasn't alone. Today, America was not alone. The world watched. From Ireland,
but with Obama, you know, there's real hope again.
To Africa.
We are celebrating, we're happy because Obama is for all of us, for both black, white, Chinese, Asian, everybody.
The day was picturesque, not perfect. Some were overcome by hypothermia. Some with tickets couldn't get in.
It doesn't look too promising.
Jessica Gorton from Iowa City, Iowa was an Obama volunteer. She arrived before sunrise, but was still too late to see the events up close.
If I don't see it, I don't see it. But he'll still be president regardless of whether I'm sitting there and watching.
Truth be told, without access to a Jumbotron or a TV set, a relative few actually saw President Obama. But they could hear his words. Be a part of this moment, Aretha Franklin summed up in song.
I
I just feel at peace, and I'm very proud to be an American.
Proud to be an American. Katie, we heard that phrase over and over today.
And Byron, I just love that interview you did with Cicely Tyson so much. That was so amazing. And meanwhile, is that what the phrase you heard over and over again that resonated with you? I'm proud to be an American?
Okay, absolutely. And the one word I heard most often today was spiritual, and not just from church-going people. The sense was this was more than just changing a president. It was about changing the country in some fundamental ways.
All right, Byron Pitts. Byron, thanks for your work all day long. We appreciate it so much. Meanwhile, the new president's first address to the nation lasted just over 18 minutes. It covered everything from the economy to terrorism and included an olive branch to the Muslim world. President Obama said, quote, "We seek a new way forward based on mutual interest and mutual respect," end quote. Our senior political correspondent, Jeff Greenfield, has more now on this inaugural address.
That we are in the midst of crisis is now well understood.
There was a touch of FDR's famous inaugural, the blunt recitation of our woes.
Our economy is badly weakened, a consequence of greed and irresponsibility on the part of some, but also our collective failure to make hard choices. Homes have been lost, jobs shed, businesses shuttered.
And as with Roosevelt, there was an optimistic promise.
Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. They will not be met easily or in a short span of time. But know this, America, they will be met.
There was an echo of John Kennedy speaking to the world beyond our borders.
To all the other peoples and governments who are watching today, know that America is a friend of each nation and every man, woman, and child who seeks a future of peace and dignity, and we are ready to lead once more.
And there were warnings as well to terrorists.
We say to you now that our spirit is stronger and cannot be broken. You cannot outlast us, and we will defeat you.
But at root, this was Barack Obama's speech. Short sentences, simple words, the tone far more conversational than oratorical. Some of his words hit a root campaign theme.
On this day, we come to proclaim an end to the petty grievances and false promises, the recriminations and worn-out dogmas that for far too long have strangled our politics. We remain a young nation, but in the words of Scripture, the time has come to set aside childish things.
This was most apparent in his vision of government, neither left nor right.
The question we ask today is not whether our government is too big or too small, but whether it works, whether it helps families find jobs at a decent wage, care they can afford, a retirement that is dignified. Where the answer is yes, we intend to move forward. Where the answer is no, programs will end.
And he offered a not-so-subtle argument that this young black man with an unusual name embraced the most traditional of values.
Honesty and hard work, courage and fair play, tolerance and curiosity, loyalty and patriotism. These things are old. These things are true.
He framed the dominant historical fact of today in these personal terms.
This is the meaning of our liberty and our creed, why men and women and children of every race and every faith can join in celebration across this magnificent mall, and why a man whose father less than 60 years ago might not have been served at a local restaurant can now stand before you to take a most sacred oath.
Listeners may have been disappointed if they were expecting sweeping rhetoric and high-flown metaphors, but it was clearly President Obama's choice to pitch this speech to the mood of the moment, simple and direct. Katie?
And Jeff, Barack Obama got to the White House partially on the strength of his communication skills. So how far do you think can these skills take him as president?
I think, given the seriousness of the moment, deeds, not words, are going to matter. What's interesting is what you heard today is the oldest form of political communication, the speech. They did it in Greece 2,000 years ago. Obama has a different kind of communication skill in terms of the new technology with which he built a campaign. And what we're going to find out is whether or not those kinds of communications, YouTube, Facebook, MySpace, all of those technologies are going to serve him politically in the days ahead, Katie.
All right, Jeff Greenfield. Jeff, thank you so much. Bob Schieffer is our chief Washington correspondent and anchor of Face the Nation. He's covered every inauguration since Lyndon Johnson's back in 1965 and thought he'd seen it all rather until today, and was at my side all day long. Bob, you know, we were talking about Barack Obama reaching out to Republicans and the spirit of bipartisanship he's already tried to establish even before he was sworn into office, having a dinner for John McCain last night, and Colin Powell reaching out to conservative columnists, keeping Gates at the Department of Defense. He's really made a lot of moves along those lines. Do you think it can last?
You know, excuse me for being Pollyanna, but I think it actually can. I've been very impressed with the way Barack Obama has come to Washington. George Bush, very sincere, had been a very moderate governor of Texas. But when he came to Washington, he made sure everybody knew he was not from Washington. And he said, I'll be going back to Texas one day. And he never really became, in my view, a part of Washington. And I think that was kind of a mistake on his part. But there was something else today, Katie, beyond the speech that was made, and that was this enormous crowd of people, the largest group we've ever seen in Washington.
An estimated
at one
2
time.
million. The largest crowd was 1.2 million at LBJ's inauguration.
Yes, and this may be even more than 2 million. I think Washington will take note of that crowd. And when Washington's politicians see this many people who've come here because they wish this man well, that in itself is a message. And I think that will add to the bipartisan air here. I really sincerely believe that something different is happening.
I thought it was really interesting when Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina, Republican, very close friend of John McCain's, told us earlier today, maybe it will get fashionable for the parties to work together and actually come up with solutions. He noted that both parties may have fringe elements or you know, people on the far left or far right who don't want Barack Obama to succeed, but that in fact it may become politically popular to actually work together and come up with solutions, and that politicians will be rewarded for that.
I think that's absolutely correct. I would also say that Lindsey Graham is one of the most astute politicians and political observers in this town. If Lindsey Graham says that, we all want to take it seriously and think about it. But this was such a wonderful day, Katie. 12 of them I've seen. I never saw one like this.
All right. Bob Schieffer. Bob, thank you so much. And still to come right here on the CBS Evening News, the Obamas love a parade, so much so they got out and walked twice. Good evening again, everyone, as we continue our special coverage of the inauguration of Barack Obama as the 44th President of the United States. At just 47 years old, he is the 5th youngest president to be sworn in and, of course, the first African-American. In his inaugural address, the new president talked of hope to a nation so much in need of it in this economic downturn.
The time has come to reaffirm our enduring spirit, to choose our better history.
And all those people who came to see President Obama made history themselves. Officials estimate they numbered as many as 2 million, the biggest crowd ever to witness an inauguration. And just look at that shot. Let's go back now to our new chief White House correspondent, Chip Reed. Chip.
Well, Katie, even with those absolutely enormous crowds, it is amazing to some that there were no major problems today. No arrests, according to the law enforcement organizations we've talked to. Just even though some people couldn't get in because the crowds were so big, most of them said they were glad they came anyway. That allowed everybody to focus on the ceremony and the historic nature of this entire day and on all the pomp and circumstance. Now, there were a couple of minor negatives. For example, it is and was bitterly cold. The reflecting pool even froze solid. People were out there walking on it. And also, the Chief Justice kind of flubbed the oath of office as he was reciting it with Barack Obama. But Barack Obama stopped, President Obama stopped, and the Chief Justice went back and got it right. And so the oath of office was accomplished. And then Mr. Obama had what many said was a very stirring speech.
Today, I say to you that the challenges we face are real. They are serious and they are many. They will not be met easily or in a short span of time. But know this, America, they will be met. Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. For as much as government can do and must do, it is ultimately the faith and determination of the American people upon which this nation relies.
Now, after the swearing in, there was a brief scare. Senator Ted Kennedy, who of course has been undergoing treatment for a brain tumor, had a seizure during the congressional luncheon. President Obama was there along with most of the House and Senate. It turns out he is fine. He's in the hospital. They say he is alert. He is laughing and joking, but certainly that was frightening for a moment. Now, this evening, there are all the balls and other parties all around town, and I suspect all across the country. So all in all, an excellent day for President Obama and everybody who came here to Washington to enjoy it. Katie?
All right, Chip Reed. Chip, thank you very much. Meanwhile, Douglas Brinkley's specialty is history, and there was a lot of it being made in Washington today. Doug, first of all, let me start with asking you about the inaugural address. You know, he's known for his stirring oratory. Did it measure up, do you think, to some of his past campaign speeches, or was it slightly different in tone?
It was different in tone. It wasn't "yes, we can," but he was echoing in a lot of ways the 1960s, the "we shall overcome." Barack Obama was saying the time has come. It is now. It was a call for people to pick up, brooms and mops and, start cleaning the floors of America and building things. So I think it was very strong.
But also very serious in tone, less sort of rhythmic than some of his past speeches were. And no real catchphrase, was there, that you think people might be repeating as they have in past inaugural addresses like FDR's, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself," or John F. Kennedy's, for that matter?
I don't think so. It reads very well, and what's interesting is Barack Obama apparently wrote most of it at the Hay Adams, and so it's going to be read a lot in history, but it wasn't a soaring moment of oratory. It was more the aura of the day and those bird's eye view of the crowds. Really, it was the people that made the difference today, all of them just flocking here to Washington, D.C.
What was the most memorable moment for you? Was it looking out on the mall and seeing those 2 million people standing shoulder to shoulder?
It was the 2 million people, and then when Barack Obama started walking down Pennsylvania Avenue and he had that big smile that we've all learned to like, that was a glowing moment for me.
Well, Doug Brinkley, thanks so much for spending the day with us.
Thank
you. We appreciate it. 8 years ago, Midland, Texas gave George W. Bush a send-off as he went to the White House. Today, residents there welcomed him home. Mr. Bush and his family flew on a presidential jet, but it wasn't designated as Air Force One. That's only for sitting presidents. Also on board, his former communications director and now CBS News political analyst, Dan Bartlett. And Dan, can you describe this trip back to Midland? Hey, nice to see you. Was it bittersweet for the president?
It was a lot more sweet than bitter, Katie. It was kind of like a family reunion at 30,000 feet. The president was in great spirits. He walked around to every single person who was on the plane and spent individual time with each of them. And then later in the flight, there was a video that brought us back all the memories of all the great challenges and great moments we had in the last 8 years. His father and mother were there. There was a lot of emotion, but it was very joyous, as he's been saying the last few days. So it was a lot of fun. We had a good time.
Did he talk much about the election of Barack Obama? Because he was there, obviously, to witness his taking the oath of office.
He talked about having a front row seat to history and talked about how great it was, the pride of our country, for us to elect the first African-American and for him to be there for that inauguration. He really has a lot of respect for the institution, and he really enjoyed the whole moment. He enjoyed the drive up the Pennsylvania Avenue with the president-elect, now President Obama. They shared a lot of laughs. They're very comfortable with each other. It's been a great day for him, and he's really had time to really think about it, reflect on the plane. And everybody, I think, obviously there's a big burden lifted off his shoulders, and the burden has now been placed on the new president's shoulders, but he really had a good time.
And how will the former president spend his post-presidency? Did he talk about that, Dan?
Well, he was laughing, saying, y'all, we were going to put me to work, and that, I'm just an old guy they kicked to the curb. So there's a lot of joking about it. He's going to focus, obviously, on writing his own book. There's a lot of history that was made during his presidency. He's going to have his own say about that. So focused a lot on his book right now and getting those thoughts down on paper. But today was a day of celebration.
I thought it was funny when you said earlier you needed to get an unlisted phone number because he was going to have a lot of free time on his hands.
We're all fearing it. I got a mountain bike for Christmas, so I'm going to have to get back in shape and get out on the trails with him.
All right. Well, Dan Bartlett, thanks so much for your insight and for sharing what happened aboard that plane on the way back to Midland, Texas today. Thank you, Dan. Meanwhile, despite the party atmosphere here in Washington, some people actually left the inauguration very disappointed because they never got to see it, even though they had tickets. As Jeff Glor reports, it was simply too crowded on the mall.
2 million or so people in one place isn't easy for any city to handle. So yes, there were some who got frustrated, no doubt.
We were just totally squished and people were pushing from behind.
A group of ticket holders that didn't get in because the Secret Service says one checkpoint was simply overwhelmed.
We had purple tickets, and they weren't letting us in.
A water main break that limited parade access. But under the circumstances, Washington appears to have pulled off a massive event with minimal trouble.
I knew that they could do it. I knew they could do it, and they did an awesome job. I think they did an awesome job of pulling it off.
Jammed early, the National Mall between the Capitol and the Washington Monument was filled by 9 a.m., 3 hours before President Obama took the oath. And this unprecedented sea of onlookers could easily have been overwhelming. Visitors outnumbered police officers by a ratio of 100 to 1. But nobody seemed anxious to stir up trouble.
Of course, we didn't get the best seat in the house just now, but we were able to see the Jumbotron and see Barack and hear him, and just to be in the presence of this moment was truly amazing.
And when it was over, we watched this extraordinary scene. Dozens of frozen souls deciding, never mind warming up, they wanted to start picking up.
We couldn't get out. All the roads were crowded, and I thought, let's clean up. Let's do something productive since we can't get anywhere.
So you're picking up trash?
We're picking up trash. It needs to be done.
Part of an all-out effort by citizens and a city that did not go unnoticed by the new man in charge.
When you think about the complexities of putting together an event of this size and this scope, you have to marvel at the leadership and the teamwork and the good spirits that went into it.
Good spirits and good behavior, which becomes even more clear when you hear about this number from the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department. They're reporting tonight that so far, not one person was arrested during inauguration activities. Jeff Glor, CBS News, Washington.
That seems hard to believe. In his inaugural address, President Obama had a message for world leaders. America is, quote, ready to lead once more. And from Europe to Asia to Africa, his inauguration is seen as a new beginning. Mark Phillips reports.
So help you God, so help me God. Congratulations, Mr. President.
They sang his name in the land of his father. They cheered in what claims to be the land of his distant cousin and wrote new lyrics.
There's no one as Irish as Barack Obama.
They rang the ceremonial bell in the town in Japan that bears his name. Never have so many felt so close from so far.
All of a sudden, we have this smart guy running the United States.
The world seemed to stop to watch the man many see as their new leader, too.
Barack Obama really does seem to be the first American president who is also in many ways quite genuinely the world's president.
Who will inherit the world's problems, but who perhaps more than any before him is being carried along on a river of goodwill.
He seems to have an understanding of the way that all parts of the New World work, including in Africa, including in Asia.
They listened most carefully when he spoke to them.
To all the other peoples and governments who are watching today, from the grandest capitals to the small village where my father was born.
A village where they may have cheered loudest of all. Not everyone cheered. In Gaza and the West Bank, they've seen American presidents come and go, and nothing changed.
It's just so easy to write a speech, but it doesn't mean that he means what he's saying. And he's just president, and he's not going to do anything new in Palestine.
But elsewhere, he's already done something new.
For me, it's a miracle. Martin Luther King said,
that we shall overcome. We did today.
At least for a day, he's done for the world what he's done for America, given it hope. Mark Phillips, CBS News, London.
And when we come back, they witnessed history thanks to a man who decided the inauguration's for everyone. On President Obama's first day in office, stock prices fell with new worries over the banking crisis. The Dow lost more than 330 points, a post-World War II era record for Inauguration Day. It closed below 8,000, the lowest level in 2 months. One of Detroit's big three automakers, Chrysler, has a new partner in its fight for survival, Italy's Fiat. In a deal subject to approval by the U.S. government, Fiat would get a 35% stake without providing any cash. The deal could position Chrysler for more government loans on top of the $4 billion it already received. In other news, just before President Obama was sworn in, a military judge adjourned the Guantanamo Bay War Crimes Court at least until tomorrow. Prosecutors want the trials of suspected terrorists suspended until the new administration decides how to proceed. President Obama has said he plans to close Guantanamo. And in the Middle East, costly damage and defiant claims of victory by Hamas in Gaza. The tenuous ceasefire is holding, but Hamas declared victory over Israel in rallies surrounded by smoldering rubble across Gaza. Hamas hasn't announced any rebuilding plans there. Losses are said to run about $2 billion, in addition to about 1,300 deaths. And coming up next, instant replay, the memorable sights and sounds of this historic day. The party's far from over here in Washington. Tonight, Barack and Michelle Obama will be very busy as they stop by each of the 10 official inaugural balls. Earlier, they joined marchers from all 50 states in the inaugural parade along Pennsylvania Avenue. Nancy Cordes was there, and Nancy, it was quite a scene.
It really was, Katie. 90 groups were selected from all over the country to march in this inaugural parade. Several of those groups had personal significance to the Obamas, and it was clear that the first couple was enjoying themselves immensely as they watched from the reviewing stand. The president even grinned and flashed a shaka sign at one point, a Hawaiian hand signal that means, "Hey, how's it going?" as the marching band of his alma mater, Punahou High School, walked by at the very start of the parade. We also saw the first couple dancing from time to time as they watched some of the bands go by. Now they're back at the White House getting ready for all those inaugural balls, Katie.
And some of those little kids are so cute. All right, Nancy Cordes. Nancy, thanks a lot. And finally tonight, there were so many moving sights and sounds on this very historic day. And before we leave you, here's a look back.
I come treated of the sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing.
Hey, where are you from?
California,
Virginia, Boston,
Miami, Florida.
This is the day that the Lord had made, and we are going to rejoice and be glad in it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the inauguration of the 44th President of the United States of America.
Almighty God, everything we see and everything we can't see exists because of you alone. We know today that Dr. King and a great cloud of witnesses are shouting in heaven. Oh, say, can you see?
Do solemnly swear. I, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., do solemnly swear.
that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
That I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Are you prepared to take the oath, Senator?
I am.
I, Barack Hussein Obama.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States faithfully.
And will, to the best of my ability.
And will, to the best of my ability.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. President. All the best wishes.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America. And so, to all the other peoples and governments who are watching today, from the grandest capitals to the small village where my father was born, know that America is a friend of each nation and every man, woman, and child who seeks a future of peace and dignity, and we are ready to lead once more.
And that is our special expanded edition of the CBS Evening News. I'll be back at 9/8 Central with the CBS News special, Change and Challenge, the inauguration of Barack Obama, including my interviews with President Obama and the new First Lady, Michelle Obama. And right after that, an inauguration night webcast on CBSNews.com. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later.